Welcome to NETTDay. This is number 14, I believe. My name is Mike Bedell. I'm Dean of the College of Business and Technology. NET, of course, stands for Northeastern Empowerment Through Technology. And day is about today. So welcome to NETTDay. We hope we have an intriguing program for you, something that's forward-looking and thoughtful and grabs the leading edge. And so that's really the purpose. I want to thank the various faculty that have been involved in this, in putting this together. There's a faculty committee, Dave Jordan, who you met, Tunku, who's over here, Ahmed Khalid in the back, and some others that I'm missing at this point. But again, thank those faculty for putting this together. I hope you guys have a great day, and it's thoughtful, and do not hesitate to talk to these folks. Ask questions during, ask questions after. That's how you're going to learn. So thanks for being here. Have a great day. So
without any further ado, Don Ginocchio, right? Don Ginocchio.
That's right. It's close enough. It's Ginocchio, just like Pinocchio. That's how you thank God for Walt Disney. Okay, well, we'll start and try to keep things moving. Anybody hear me talk in March? Anybody was here for that? Okay, because I got some of the same charts mixed in, which is good. Okay. I picked this title because there's a very old ad campaign for United Negro College Fund. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a commercial for that. It's a charity that supports minority students. And their theme was a mind is a terrible thing to waste, which they still use today. Anyway, I have a lot of material. I'll go through it quick, and we'll hopefully have time for a few questions at the end. So I'm going to talk, I'll use a lot of personal examples. It's all right. Personally, it's okay. I'm going to keep talking anyway. Some personal examples. I wanted to share some things that maybe you haven't heard about AI that I got some direct experience with, and a little bit about the history, because I'm old. I look backwards to see how we got here today. And it's your job to look forward in the future of work. So we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. And really, my goal is to kind of hopefully inspire you to learn more, which you're doing today. You're learning a lot today. And maybe through your studies and future work, you'll learn even more after that. Okay. Will eventually work. Jocelyn, am I in the right?
That's good.
Yeah, it's not clicking this time.
I got it. Let me know when it's good.
Very good to have. There we go. Was that me or you? That was you. There we go. Okay. So anyway, I'm from the big business world. I'll talk a little bit about my background in a second. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what big business is telling their customers about AI. It's important you understand that, because some of you will go out and work in the business world or technology world. I'm also going to touch on, how we got here with AI, at least on Ginocchio's version of that, because I've been working with computers since I was your age. And a little bit about four simple examples of how AI can be good. There's plenty of examples of how it can be bad. Well, we won't spend much time on that. But really, the closing message is humans are better than computers. If you heard the previous speaker, the world is not going to come to an end in our lifetime because of artificial intelligence. There's still a very important role that you will play, and all of us play in the future of work as citizens, as workers, as technologists. So hopefully you'll be inspired to be part of AI being good. Okay, a little bit about me. I worked for 2/3 of my life in technology companies, IBM, McAfee, and SAP, big software company. I also spent some time in corporate IT, most of which was at Abbott Lab. If you've heard of Abbott Lab, up in Lake County, medical products company, very fun. And I spent about 2/3 selling stuff and about 1/3 trying to implement IT stuff. Selling is much easier, in my experience. Implementing IT, hard. Selling easy, because you just say, buy it and good luck. Anyway, so that's a little bit about me. And most recently, I spent a lot of time with universities and professors. I spent a lot of time with entrepreneurs and startups now as a coach and a mentor to help them refine their solutions and products. Okay, so what's big business saying? I'm going to send a lot of short videos, and this is the first one. I think it's going to work.
The bar for business has been set higher. The playing field has risen, and with it, So have expectations, demands, and competition. It's getting harder to keep up. You may have the resources, infrastructure, and talent to be competitive, but that's no longer enough. You can't just keep pace. You have to set it. Otherwise, the gap between where you are and where you want to be will keep growing. Your business has untapped potential. You can move faster, adapt quicker, and be more proactive than ever before. The transformative power of SAP AI helps you realize that, enhancing your capabilities, embedding intelligence in not just one, but every aspect of your business: marketing, sales, manufacturing, procurement, finance, and HR, working behind the scenes to help you grow, scale, expand, and transform what you're able to do today. It all starts with an idea, but which one? Well, when you're able to gauge both demand and the factors that drive it, you can turn concepts into market reality, choosing the ones you know will succeed. And to build them, you'll need to turn sourcing into competitive advantage with the best materials, the right suppliers, and a streamlined supply chain that seamlessly updates you every step of the way. So even when things don't go as planned, you're able to respond in real time. And because you can't bring ideas to life without the right talent in place, you need to be able to turn potential into performance with the best candidates and tailored training to prepare your team for what's ahead. Finally, you need to be able to connect with prospects who are most likely to convert, putting your product in front of them at the exact right time and right place, taking them from evaluating options to becoming lifelong customers. SAP AI brings transformative intelligence to your entire business, from design to operate, to source to pay, recruit to retire, and lead to cash, optimizing every aspect with insights and recommendations you can trust, letting you extend and enhance your capabilities with innovation that works with what you already have in place. SAP AI is working with you to take you further than you ever thought possible, so you can become everything you always knew you could be today.
Gets you right in the heart, right? So it's a very big marketing message. It doesn't really say a lot, except to say that I think what the takeaway from that is that this is happening today in business. You know, and SAP's term for it is intelligent enterprise. So they're building intelligence and capabilities into supply chains, into sales and marketing, into HR within a company. And some of you may already had job experiences with some of these applications. And there's big money in this for companies like SAP. But there's also some flaws. Who has an Alexa or an Echo Dot at home? So you ever had this happen where you say something in the kitchen and it thinks you were talking about something else? So AI is not perfect. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Here's another short message. This is the other company I've tried to personalize. This is another company I work for, IBM. This is their current method.
People are excited about what AI will do for them. We're excited about what AI will do for business. Introducing Watson X, a platform designed to multiply output by training AI with your data. When you Watson X your business, you can build AI to help coders code faster, customer service respond quicker, and employees handle repetitive tasks in less time. Let's create AI that transforms business with Watson X. IBM, let's create.
So again, the takeaway from those two short videos is that there's a lot of money in the commercial enterprise for AI. It's happening today. And so for those of you that are technologists, or if you're aspire to be on the commercial side of businesses, you will experience AI as you get out into the workforce, whatever path you decide to take. So I'm probably tell a few quick stories, the quick show of hands. So who's studying in the science, technology, engineering domain? Science, technology? Anybody in business? Consider yourself a business student? Okay, here's the professor in the back. What about the arts? Anybody in arts and letters? Okay, we got all technologists today. Okay, well, this will be good. I studied engineering way back before they even knew what computer science was. My sister told me, I said, I don't know what to study in college. She said, well, you're good at math and science, so why don't you study engineering? And then I fell in love with computers, which is what I'm going to talk about now. So way back in the day when I started studying computers, this is what you learn a computer is. You know, it's got a processing unit, it's got memory, it's got input and output, and this hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. In fact, this is how computers work. And this thing we call a cell phone, it's the same kind of thing. It has input and output. It's got processing unit and storage. It's just that they're a lot faster and smaller. So what has changed over these decades and why AI is possible? I think you know these things from your studies. Cost and size keeps going down. You've heard of Moore's law, famous prediction by a gentleman called Moore. He said things are going to double every technology capability doubles every couple of years. It's been true and it keeps being true, at least during my lifetime, which means things can be done with computers we could never do in the past. It's cheaper and easier and smaller. And so that means new applications, new solutions, and new AI models. Explosion of data. There's sensors in my smartwatch. There's sensors in this phone. There's sensors in your car. And all these sensors are gathering information, hopefully putting it somewhere it could be used for constructive purposes. It could also be used for nefarious purposes. We'll touch a little bit on ethics later. But basically, you know, if you have a friend and you say, well, meet me at such and such restaurant, and they say, well, I don't know how to get there. Well, that's a bad excuse, right? Everybody knows how to get there. All you have to do is ask Google or ask your whatever maps program you're using, right? So there's really not an excuse for not having access to knowledge today, which is great because it gives us new opportunities. And then a famous quote about software eats everything. It basically means that things are changing fast, and the companies that have mastered technology and artificial intelligence are beating out the companies that don't. So a little bit of personal history. Sorry to act like an old guy. But back in when I first started with IBM, there were these really big rooms that were very cold with very big computers in them. This is the IBM System 360, about 1965. Anyway, it's boring to you now, but it weighed 9 tons and it cost a lot of money, and it had a whole 32K of memory. Well, the Apple iPhone, which some of you probably have, is 6 ounces. It has 512 gigabytes, and so that's just to illustrate that this small and faster and cheaper has happened and will continue to happen, which means we can do new things. In terms of data, this is from the IDC. I mentioned earlier, everything's got a sensor. We're gathering all this information, and no human being, it's often we talk about the medical field, no doctor, man or woman, can possibly know all the information that's about disease and all those things. So they rely on systems, of course, to hopefully treat you a thoughtful manner. There's just so much information out there now, which means we need to apply artificial intelligence, just like the previous speaker was talking about. We need to train our computers to deal with this data. So hopefully we can predict the next virus or the next help build a new vaccine. What's next? And then software is eating the world. This is the famous quote from Mark Andreessen. He's an investor and entrepreneur. And basically, if you use these, we all use Amazon. I'm sure you're all Amazon customers at one time or another. You may also use Netflix and other applications. The key thing is people have an expectation that things are going to be Google fast. I want it to be Apple easy, which means easy to use, easy to understand. And then I want it to be customized for me, kind of like Amazon knows what you bought, knows what books you read because you tell it. And it then customizes. So I keep getting these notifications on Alexa that says, we noticed you haven't done a book in a while. Here's a book you might want to read. And I don't even ask for that. It tells me. So that's the expectation. And I like to tell the story that my mother celebrated her 93rd birthday on Tuesday. And I'm happy to say she's in good health and she has all her faculties. In fact, she just got her license. You got to get the driver's license renewed every year when you're that old. She drives. She's got a very active social life. She has an iPad. She has an Android phone. She has a Chromebook laptop. And the one thing with all this wonderful technology in her life is she has no patience. She just expects things to work. She expects, and I'm, of course, her help desk. Just like many children, even though I'm almost 65, I'm still her son. And anyway, she'll be sitting there, why doesn't this work? Pressing the button, the app on her phone. My point is she's a good example of, we just expect things to be fast and easy. And that puts a lot of pressure on business, companies large and small, to make their products and solutions fast and easy. And artificial intelligence is giving them some opportunities they didn't have before. So just quickly in your mind, think of, this is the audience participation part. Why are computers good? Or why might they be bad? You can probably think of examples. We'll touch on this a little bit later when we talk about ethics. Yeah. So this is an example, not the only answer, but some examples of why computers are good. In fact, the previous speaker talked about how computers are really good at math. I don't care how good you are at math, the computer is better than you are at math, because they can repeat things and they don't make a mistake. They don't add wrong. They don't divide wrong. They do everything right if you teach them how to do it right. They have better memories. They can do these complex analytics faster than we can. Humans are still good at some very important stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end because I have to give you some career advice. And, this is one of the reasons that AI is not going to destroy the world, is because humans are all of you are very important as citizens, as technologists, as business people, to making sure we apply computer technology and AI in effective ways. But computers, as good as they are not perfect. An example of that is this. Right? I found a couple of AI jokes. So that's just to break up the monotony. I'm not going to read all this to you, but the previous speaker talked a little bit. There's different types of AI, as most of you probably know. There's different levels. And I put some definitions. These are SAP definitions of narrow intelligence, general intelligence. These two types are the kinds that we mostly experience today. The one that's the sort of dystopian future one is super intelligence. This is the Skynet taking over the world stuff. And in this particular perspective is we don't have to worry about this happening in our lifetimes, not your lifetime or mine. We should be concerned about the ethics of how we use these technologies, but they're not going to take over the world. Okay, so is AI good or bad? Make sure I'm staying on time. I'm not going to ask you to voice your opinion. You're here because you want to learn more about it. Well, Hollywood thinks it's bad. See the search I put in there, dystopian movies about artificial intelligence. And by the way, the list is a lot longer. You've probably seen some of these. There's some excellent movies up here. One that's not up here that really creeped me out was Ex Machina. Has anybody seen that one? It's about the female robot. I highly recommend it, or you won't sleep good. Right? It's called Ex Machina. But anyway, you've probably seen some of these, and this sells well, and they're great dystopian views of what AI might do in the future. But the good news is that AI can be good. And there's a number of examples. I'm going to share just a few of them from my own personal experience in a second. There are measurable benefits from AI-powered systems that we already know and have experienced. Excuse me. Businesses have always gathered information about customers, about their products, about supply chains and things like that. But that, as I said earlier, that data is exploding so much that they need to use artificial intelligence to help them sort through and manage that data. So that helps them be resilient. They're more nimble when they're using the information that's out there, whether it's from my Fitbit or my phone or my Amazon account or whatever. Allows them to provide better customer service. I use the example of if the store or a retailer or an online shopper knows what I bought in the past, they'll help guide me. I bought a pair of Skechers a couple of weeks ago, and they gave me 10% off if I gave them my email. Hindsight was a mistake, but I did get 10% off. And I actually went to the store to buy them because I wanted to try them on. And so now Skechers ads pop up in my browser when I'm doing things. I get a Skechers email. I can unsubscribe, of course. But the point is they're using that information to serve me. And actually, I want them to know something about me so that they can serve me better. So companies are using, AI for better customer service. It also, I've always been a fan of people make good decisions and bad decisions. But what you want to do is make an informed decision. You want to be informed so that you can choose. You want to have the best information available. You want to have the latest information available. And so businesses are using AI to help them stay informed and hopefully make better decisions, which is important because decisions mean money. immediate R&D. What are people buying now? What trends are there in the marketplace? What trends are there in the people I'm trying to serve or my customers? This to be R&D in the years I was growing up, and you'd look backwards, what did people buy last year? What did they do? Now people are getting real-time data. What are they buying now? What shirts are selling in the retail store, so we can maybe make more of those shirts before we run out. Those kinds of things are very important. And so you sort of have instantaneous R&D, which wasn't possible without AI systems. Then finally, engaged workforce. I'm going to tell you a secret. Some of you may know already. Work can be boring. It can be boring. Not a lot, but it can be boring. So anytime you can have engaged employees where they're doing work that's meaningful, that's interesting, that helps them grow and develop as well as contribute. You want to make, hopefully you all want to make a difference, whatever you're doing. Well, if you feel good about your company, you're going to treat your customers well. And a happy employee means happy customers, which means more profit. And our airline friends here can certainly tell you that happy travelers are better for United than unhappy travelers. Open example. And if the employees at the airline are happy, they're much more likely to treat your customers and make them happy. So engaged workforce is also a real measurable benefit. Okay, so 4 examples. These are all, I'll tell you a little angle on my life, because I wanted to share some examples that were maybe a little lesser known. I'm sure you read a lot and know more than I do about a lot of this, but these are examples I hope you don't know that indicate some really good applications of AI, in my opinion. So anybody heard of Khan Academy? Khan Academy, a very famous online learning. It's been a wonderful tool for educators and students. This is a little longer video. I may cut it off in the middle, but they recently launched something called Conmigo. Anybody heard about Conmigo? Okay, boom. This will be new. So I heard a presentation about this just a couple weeks ago. It was really fascinating, and I'm just going to play a little bit of this video so you can understand what they're doing with ChatGPT.
This is Conmigo, an AI-powered guide designed to help all students learn. When subjects are giving them trouble, Conmigo can help. Conmigo is fun and can transform learning into an adventure. Conmigo is not just for students. Teachers can use it too by toggling from student mode to teacher mode. Then Conmigo transforms into the teaching assistant you've always wanted. Select the activity section to begin. It's going to show you all of the wonderful things that Conmigo can do. You can have a chat with Conmigo. Conmigo can give you a class snapshot of how your students are doing. It can summarize your students' chat history so you can see what they've been up to. Feeling iffy about an upcoming standard that you're about to cover? Use Conmigo to refresh your knowledge, and then use it again to come up with a creative lesson hook that gets your students excited about your content, and then use it again to write unique, thought-provoking exit ticket questions. Conmigo can create a humanities lesson plan and help you collaborate with your students to create a fun class summary poem. Conmigo can help you write learning objectives for an upcoming unit and help you co-create a writing rubric for your students' next essay. Ready to see Conmigo in action? Me too. Let's start with a creative lesson hook. Conmigo, are you ready to get started? Absolutely. Me too. Let's get going. It's been a while since I've taught Romeo and Juliet, so Conmigo, can you please help me come up with a creative lesson hook for Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet for my 9th grade English class? Of course you can. Conmigo came up with 2 fantastic hooks that I can use with my students. Actually, on second thought, a lot of my students think that Shakespeare is boring. Conmigo, can you give me a funny hook that will help keep my students engaged? So starting the class with a Shakespearean insult? That is hilarious, and my students will love it. Thanks, Conmigo. Okay, Conmigo, I'm going to need a quick check for understanding to use with my students to make sure that they understand Act 3 before moving on to Act 4. Could you please help me create an exit ticket for them? Wow, these are wonderful, thought-provoking questions. It's really going to show me whether or not my students need more support with Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet. Thanks so much, Conmigo. I think Mr. Shakespeare would approve. After reviewing my students' exit ticket,
I'm going to pause, stop it there. It's just another minute, but a really neat example of using language processing and ChatGPT in particular. They worked with ChatGPT before it was available in the general marketplace to create Conmigo. And this looked at the so I have a daughter. I have 2 married children. My daughter-in-law and my son-in-law were both teachers. And so I have this tremendous appreciation and respect for teachers. It's a very hard job. It's hard for your professor. Actually, professors in college is easier, I think, than grammar school. You don't have to deal with teenagers. But anyway, they have a tough day. They got to come up with lesson plans. They got to come up with these exit checks, which is something you do at the end of a session or a topic to make sure the students got the idea right. And so it's a constant challenge, and Conmigo can be a help to them, but it also helps students. For example, if a student, it doesn't write the essay for you, that's one of the things you hear about, people are using ChatGPT to write things and all this. Well, Conmigo basically helps you write. So say, let's write a mystery together. Where do you want the mystery to be set? Who's the main character? Does it, kind of in a fun way, writes the essay with you, which is great because most teachers don't have the time. But for people that use this or need to use this, it's a great application of AI. Okay, my second example. So the first one was the ultimate teacher. This is the ultimate financial advisor. So let me just play this one.
Since their launch just a few years ago, so-called robo-advisors have been entrusted with billions of dollars by many different kinds of investors. So what exactly are robo-advisors? Despite the name, robo-advisors aren't actually robots. They're sophisticated and use advanced algorithms designed to take strategies developed by human investment advisors and share them with everyone. Because they're automated, robo-advisors tend to be cheap and easy to use, making them an attractive option for all kinds of investors, from young people just starting out to more established investors, like retirees looking for help generating income.
Let me go back.
Since their launch just
Can't stop the way I want. Go back.
By now, you've probably heard about generative.
Please go back. There we go. So anyway, robo-advisors. So in your financial life, I hope you'll follow the pattern where you generate a lot of debt, then you save money. Hopefully you get the opportunity to save money, and someday you become an investor because you want your money to work for you. I use Charles Schwab. So I'm that last person. I'm a retiree who's trying to make their money work for them. And they have a product called Intelligent Portfolio. And you just say, I want this much money in 10 years, and I'm willing to take this kind of risk with my money. And it helps me decide how much to save and how much I can take out when I need it, because I'm basically living off my savings now at this point in my life. And it does it all magically with artificial intelligence and analytics. So it's a great tool that a lot of people are taking advantage of, and helps people like me I'm not a financial expert. I have an engineering degree. Oh, balance sheet if it hit me over the head. But I need help because money for all of us is important to manage our lives. So that's another good example from my personal experience. The next one, anybody heard of Epic Systems in Madison, Wisconsin? My daughter works for Epic. Epic is provides electronic medical record software. They're one of the leading, if not the leading. So if you go to see a doctor, you go to a healthcare provider, about 60% of them are using Epic to manage your data. So here's a little story from Epic.
By now, you've probably heard about generative AI and how it will completely transform the way you do business. But what you might not know is that the latest large language models, like GPT-4, are already built into Epic. Generative AI lets your team zip through everyday, repetitive tasks and spend more time on things that bring them meaning. And saving a little time here and there, that really adds up. For example, with AI, Epic can draft a response to a patient message, complete with a personal touch. For nursing, the system can gather relevant events from the last shift and draft a handoff summary, freeing up the care team to focus on communicating with each other. In the clinic, the system writes a concise summary of what's happened since the last visit, with links to the full details in the chart. helping providers get up to speed quickly as they move from room to room. This isn't science fiction. These features are already in use at health systems around the world. We're moving fast with over 60 development projects in the works, and we're excited to explore more with you. Reach out to your BFF or email us to get started.
We'll tell you that those of you that are interested in Epic should look at them from a career perspective. It's a fine company in Madison, with technologists in particular. Anyway, you've all been to healthcare providers of various sorts. You want them to know something about your health history, or if you've had a test done, and and so you go to different places. Sometimes you have to go to immediate care. Sometimes you go to your regular physician. Sometimes you may do a test on your own, even if you're in good health. And so systems like this allow them to respond to and manage that information so that doctors and nurses and clinicians can focus on you. I know I've had the experience where I go to the doctor and it's like I only talk to him or her for like 5 minutes of 30 minutes I'm there. I'd much rather talk to them for 20 minutes of 30 minutes I'm there. And so systems like Epics and others are a good example of AI being the ultimate healthcare provider. And the last fourth example, my son works for Mars Candy, M&Ms and Snickers. It's great. Especially this time of year with Halloween coming up. Anyway, this is a story about Mars and IBM collaboration on food safety. So the ultimate scientific tester.
We all want to make sure that our food is safe, but doing that can be really hard. Looking for contaminants in raw materials is tough. The statistics are stacked against us. Today, we can only test for pathogens individually, one sample at a time. And that means hundreds, if not thousands of tests, most of which deliver a simple negative result. We needed to think about this differently.
That's why Mars and IBM joined forces to sequence the genomes of all the organisms in the food supply chain. That's millions of organisms, but big data is what IBM is good at. The DNA and RNA sequences show you all the harmless bacteria that are found in normal, safe food.
If we do the test and the microorganisms are suddenly different, something's up. The organisms have changed because the environment has changed. It could be contaminated. And not only that, this tells us things that we never could have seen before, like where the food was grown, how it was transported, and maybe even what happened en route. Our approach to food safety just got a lot smarter.
So another neat example that hopefully you hadn't heard about before. There's many, many more. These are just four that I try to draw upon from my little sphere of concern, my family and friends, that I thought were unique and perhaps different than you've heard. So I hope you walked away from those four thinking, okay, there's some good stuff out there that AI is doing, and you can learn more about those on your own time. I did promise to come. I believe there's a speaker on the agenda talking about ethics. So I won't, yes, thank you. So I won't dwell on this too much, and I'm certainly not an expert, but I do want to just bring this up because this is a connection to the human part of the future of work. And there are some ethical concerns, right? I talked earlier about how we're gathering all this information and data, and your various social media platforms. That data can invade privacy and be a security issue. We know this, right? There's just tons and tons of data out there. And so those of us that have the opportunity, both as citizens, we need to demand it, and also as technologists and business people, we need to make sure we have the right safeguards in place. You've probably read stories about AI bias, that these algorithms might be biased just because of what, if we have a whole bunch of historical data that favors one demographic, a race or a gender or something like that, there's all kinds of, not intentionally, but accidental bias built into these algorithms and models. And there's a story here in this paragraph about how UC Berkeley helped eliminate that bias. But that's a concern going forward, particularly for those of you. And, we tell the computer what to do, and sometimes we tell it to do the wrong thing. Another couple examples are transparency. It's important that we know what it is we told the computer to do, so we can find out if it does that and produces the wrong result, we need to tell it to do something else. So explainable AI is basically what's the math, what's the equation that follow, whether it's language models or other algorithms or whatever. I worked with SAP. We worked with a research project at the university where they were helping auto manufacturers do diagnostics from the sensors in the car. There's a lot of technology in the car. And so that it would tell you, you get a call from your car dealer and they'd say, bring your car in, we need to replace the XYZ thing. They said, well, everything's fine. It says, yeah, but it's going to break tomorrow, right? We know it's going to break tomorrow because we've been monitoring your fan belt or whatever it is. And so that's an example of we want to make sure we tell it the right thing so that you don't have to bring in your car when it's fine, but only when it's about to break. The previous speaker talked about the concerns about deep fake. I think we've all had different experience with this thing. It's cool when it's used in entertainment and things like that, like this example from the movie The Irishman, which is a very good movie, I think. But it's real easy to spread a lie very fast. Fortunately, we're human beings and we're very heavily, I don't need to tell you this, we're heavily motivated by anger and fear. So if you're told a lie, whatever that lie is, it sometimes gets you to react in the worst possible way. So there's certainly risk. And I would just encourage you that work in this field to keep these 4 things in mind and try to learn more and do more with ethics as you go for. Okay, well, in the time we have left, I have about 12 minutes according to my watch. I did want to talk about why humans are better and give you a little career advice from my perspective. So this is from my last employer, SAP. It talks about what does the future of work look like. And the first is you have to have continuous lifelong learning. World is changing fast. And even after you earn your degrees here at Northeastern or whatever you do down the road, you want to keep learning and make sure you look for companies that give you an opportunity to keep learning. I think the United guest said something about how they have a lot of opportunity to keep learning. It should be a key factor in your decisions about where to work, that you'll still have the opportunity. Even if you're an entrepreneur or something, you want to keep learning so that you're nimble. You're clearly going to work from anywhere. I know a lot of young adults who decided they could work from home, so they just moved to Europe and work from home in Europe. The only problem is they got to be up from in the wee hours of the morning. But you can work a lot of jobs will give you the opportunity to work from anywhere. That's just going to be a factor for all of our lives going forward. Artificial intelligence will be an important part of your work, no matter what it is. We talked a lot about some examples, and you have the opportunity to influence the values and the ethical standards of those things. And then, of course, you'll be working with old people like me sometimes and young people like you. But the work will be cognitive in nature, right? You're going to have to use your mind for this kind of work. And it means you'll have to be familiar with, and you're already investing in your education with digital technologies and information technology. That's great. Don't stop learning, and make sure you work on your teamwork skills as well, which I'll touch on in a minute. This may be a little hard to read. I apologize, but I pasted something in from another presentation. So these are examples of the kinds of things that industry wants people to do. I'll give you a chance to look at some of these, and they all take, brain power that computers can't do without us. And a lot of these are the examples of sort of being nimble and flexible, because we have to combine the technology input in what we do with these, shall we call them, soft issues. So I told you I spent a lot of time with entrepreneurs and startups in the last few years. And one of the things I came to speak about here earlier this year and have spent a lot of time in is design thinking. And what design thinking teaches you is that innovation is the center of the intersection of these 3 things: desirability, feasibility, and viability. So it has to be cool and has to solve a problem or address a need. Desirability. Feasible, it has to work. And viable is somebody wants to buy it for money, whether that's real money or fake money, or if you're a citizen, maybe it serves a public need. And my experience with a lot of entrepreneurs and new ideas is they get 2 of these, but they don't get the other one. And it depends on what you're. So engineers tend to build things that are feasible. Look at this cool thing I can buy, but nobody wants to use it, or nobody wants to buy it, right? Or artists say, look at how I'm going to make this beautiful iPhone, except it can't connect to any phone networks, right? And then the finance people are like, I can make money selling this thing. The problem is nobody can build it. So what you're aspiring to is to find the intersection of these three things. And you may bring a technology perspective because of your degree, but make sure you're working with others that bring the desirability and the business sense to those ideas, whether it's a innovation in a entrepreneurial company or just some improvement in a big company. I worked for big companies mostly my whole life. And there's plenty of opportunity for innovation in big companies because they're always trying to improve their products and services. So what I put in here for you to read later, and you'll have access to this material, is an example of 5 skill sets that are important for innovation. And I'm not going to bore you with reading all of them because I want to leave a few, but there's a brief definition of each one of these. You can read these at your leisure if you want to later. Be empathetic, understand your customer. Have the courage to keep trying again and again. When successful people don't get discouraged when they fail, they learn from their failures. You know this. Be gritty. Once you be dedicated to what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a product or a service or just trying to get your homework done. Stick it out. Don't be afraid to say, this is a bad idea. A lot of times you get groupthink in a company, particularly a big company. It's like, hey, we're gonna go march to this, and then somebody has to have the courage and say, well, that's a really bad idea. Has anybody discussed why that's a bad idea? So be a respectful instigator. I call it a troublemaker. And last, but as particularly for those of you that aren't studying business in detail, you have to be business aware. At least in our society, it's a capitalist society. It has its flaws. There are many flaws, my son tells me. In capitalist societies, but even with their flaws, they have many strengths too. And one of them is you have to provide value to somebody in some way, whether it's a citizen or a student or a customer or another business. There has to be a value equation. Sometimes the value is attached to money, but a lot of times it may be other types of intrinsic value. So those things together help people innovate. And I hope you will. I lost my clicker again. Click that for me, will you, Jocelyn? Okay, questions? Perfect presentation, and there's no questions. It's okay. I like repeating myself. No. That's all right. I can hear you. Go ahead.
For those types of companies, what has to happen to those companies?
So the question, if you didn't hear, was particularly small startups or new startups often operate at a loss when they're starting to gain market share in particular. And so that's a very good, many companies have gone through that cycle. Even some big companies, when they're launching new products, if you've heard the term loss leader, we're gonna give this away for a while so that people get addicted to it, and then they'll want to pay a lot of money for it. So there's nothing wrong with that model. You just have to, at some point, you need to start making money. So if you ever heard a startup or an entrepreneurial, they have a business projection, right? They're like, we're going to lose money in the first 3 years, but then in the 4th year, wow. Now, a lot of them end up being wrong. Only 1 in 100 startups actually are successful, but you got to try, right? So it's very common for people to lose money, particularly as they're investing in the product or the service. And then at some point, you have to get the price and the value right, and growth. That's why in our society, you got to grow. If you don't grow, then you'll never get out of the red, right? So I hope I answered your question. Anything else? Yes. Question is, how do I develop some knowledge and appreciation for the financial or business aspects of innovation? Well, make some friends. So, I think the first rule is have people on your team, and they may be in your media team, or they might be advisors. So when an entrepreneur starts a business, they're good at something. They might be an engineer, they might be a technology, whatever. They bring in advisors to advise them on the finance. So make friends, and I mean that sincerely, is business friends or college friends or whatever. If you're working on a project at school, hopefully you're working with people that have different skills and experiences, including finance. And the opposite is true too. The finance people need to understand how to work with computer scientists and engineers and so on. And by the way, don't forget artists. Art is very important in a lot of ways. This what we call the soft skills in my day and age. So you can obviously, go take a class, another class. If you have time in your schedule here. There's some excellent classes here, I'm sure, or at your community college or whatever, or online. Go to Khan Academy. I don't know what they teach on finance, but they're mostly for grammar schools. So I think the easiest, fastest way is to make friends that know that, and then learn from them. It's a very important thing to ask for advice. If there's one thing if you remember from my presentation, is ask for feedback and advice. And everything you do, it's a gift. You don't have to follow that advice. You don't have to believe it. If it doesn't resonate with what other people are telling you, then ignore it. But if 10 people tell you you're wrong about something, they're probably right. They're right and you're wrong. And so if someone you trust about finance says you can't make money that way, you should listen to them. I think I'm about out of time. One more? Any more? Yes, sir. I got 12 minutes. Okay. Well, it's not really 12, but go ahead. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Question? Yeah. The question was, what industries do I think AI has the most potential? Well, obviously, if you believe that chart I showed earlier about where computers are good, anything that's has complex computational models or big data, I'll use sports as an example because I enjoy sports very much. Some of you probably do too. If you listen or watch a baseball game or a football game now, you always hear the announcer saying, well, the analytics say you should take the pitcher out now. And it doesn't even why are they taking the pitcher out in the third inning? Well, because the analytics told them to. Sometimes they don't follow the analytics, but they usually should. They usually should. Because there's, it's sorted through a million combinations, right? So sports, is a wonderful example of how AI has really transformed. In fact, it made sports worse. If you follow baseball, and I don't know if you do it. Yeah, it made baseball worse because everybody was shifting the infield and they were, doing all these things to prevent hits. Well, if I'm spending $75 to go see the Cubs, I want to see somebody get a hit. So, I think the answer is anytime there's complex things that humans can't, supply chain, businesses that have big supply chains, where's the product coming from? How's it going to get from here? How do I modify if the truck line breaks down or the trains don't work? So any business who's complex supply chains, I think, are already getting tremendous benefit. I think any consumer or, Amazon and all these other things that serve us as consumers have tremendous potential. We're a consumer driven economy. So in our economy here in the United States, any consumer driven is going to be a fantastic business. I was always in jobs that were closer to customers. So the other advice I'd give you career wise is be close to the customer, whatever that means. Get a job where you are interacting with customers, not necessarily a salesperson, but maybe you're gathering requirements for customers because that's where the action is. And that's where companies that are nimble with AI, like some of the examples I touched on, Amazon, they're going to be successful because they're trying to stay close to their customers and respond to customers. And there's some companies that don't have a consumer angle, but their customers might be other businesses. So I don't know if that's a great answer to your question. It's hard to think of an industry that won't be affected. And hopefully you and others will help, apply those models in an ethical way. Okay. I think I'm done. I just want to say I think you have a LinkedIn presentation today. So I will make the offer. Anybody that reaches out to me and wants to, I have a very rich network of people in the Chicago area that are technologists and other kinds of people. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn if you use LinkedIn. I will accept I don't accept everybody, but if you're a Northeastern Illinois student, I will accept your invitation. I promise. I already have from last spring for some of you. So you're welcome to connect me. If you see, I will not stalk you. I don't have time to. I've got 2 grandchildren. I take a lot of my time. And the last thing is this is for you to read later. This is the secret to success, which I'm not going to read to you, but it's in my presentation, which will give you an incentive to go look at my presentation. All right. Thank you for your attention. It's been fun.